using AI, or is it starting to use you? Today, Jim and I are talking about AI codependency, vendor lock-in, and why your favorite tool might be harder to leave than you think. Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim, and we are going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Let me tell you how this conversation started. Jim was reading some headlines the other day, and because of these headlines that he loves to keep up with, like every single morning when I'm getting ready to go to work, I hear a podcast or something going on in the kitchen where he is listening to, his three favorite podcasters, or he's catching up with the news. And this has been going on since November of 2022. Well, this time, after he looked at these headlines, he basically came to me and he said, Mari, I am afraid that you are getting into a codependent relationship with ChatGPT.
That wasn't an adversarial thing to say at all, was it?
Not at all. So we're going to have a talk tonight about why he thinks that I am becoming
I
codependent.
sense aggression.
A little bit of aggression never hurt
think
anybody.
It depends on how aggressive it
So the
is.
first thing I want to do is I want you to tell me, what were some of the headlines that kind of led you to basically accuse me of codependency?
Well, it's not first of all, it wasn't an accusation, but basically, when you look back in time, the goal of any vendor,
Got a problem?
yeah, I can't say out of my glasses.
Oh, that's
The
a bad
goal
problem.
the goal of any vendor is to get you locked into the program. We know that. We accept that.
It's been
And they've
happening
gotten in
forever.
trouble for that because as the vendor gets bigger, like Google gets big enough or Microsoft gets big enough, then they have market dominance. And so it's hard to get rid of them. So let's look back in time about some of these efforts that they've made to get people locked in. Back in 2014, this particular one was from Business Insider, May 16th, 2014. The headline, I like this: Furious iPhone users tell us Apple ruined their lives by not delivering text after they switched to Android. So basically what it is that people said that when they got their Android phone, Apple wouldn't let them get access to their messages and things like that.
Hmm.
And so they lost all that history that they had.
Right.
And it's a true statement. I mean, I had an Android phone. When you convert, it's not an easy thing to do. So anyway, so now let's fast forward to now, where it's relevant to these AI. March 2nd, 2026, Mac rumors. Anthropic adds free memory feature and import tool to lure ChatGPT users to Claude. Okay.
Whenever I got my first Claude account,
Yep.
I did that. I
Well,
tried to get all the memory off of my ChatGPT account and put it into Claude.
I can't get it off mine. But even if it now moved to Claude, what happens when you want to move back? You think Claude's going to help you out? Probably
Yeah.
not. April 10th, 2026, Tech Radar. Headline: After today's big memory upgrade, ChatGPT can now remember conversations from a year ago and link you directly to them. So they made a memory upgrade. ChatGPT did because they want you to stay, right? Another one from Mac Rumors again. iPhone loyalty. This is non AI.
When was this?
This was April 16th, 2026.
A couple of days ago.
And this was iPhone loyalty hits 96.4% as Android users 4 times more likely to switch. This isn't about AI, but it's basically saying people don't buy products anymore.
They
They
buy
buy
the
They buy the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And they form habits that require community. I mean, think about it. One of the reasons why my son, Jared, had a Windows phone,
Mhm.
he wanted to get rid of it because the people that did Snapchat, which I think Meta owns them now, they wouldn't make a Snapchat app for his phone.
Mhm.
And all his friends use Snapchat.
Right.
So he
That
literally,
was years ago, but
but it
yeah.
doesn't matter. It's the same problem,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
All right.
It
And
is.
so anyway, one more. I got one more. This one I don't even understand. Green bubble shaming at play in DOJ suit against Apple, March 28th, 2024. This is an old one. This one says that basically people don't want people on they can tell by the color of the bubble which phone you have.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't
Green
either.
ball.
I don't know
I
if that's
really
still true.
I didn't have time to. This was 2024, so it may not be. I didn't have time to look into it, but it just seemed funny to me, this idea that people were bubbles.
We have to tell a little story before I continue with what I want to talk about here.
Yeah.
Our son-in-law has an Android phone
and refuses.
and does not want to switch
He
over.
won't. You
And
an
when
idiot.
he is on a group chat and he puts something like an image or
Mhm.
a video or something like that for us to watch, most of the time we can't see it.
Or remember the videos? I'm not
They're
sure if it's
so sm
fixed or not. They were like
yeah,
microscopic.
yeah.
So we started another
So we
thread
are
without him.
shaming him,
We had to start another thread with them because we wanted to see
and
full
we're
size videos.
kicking him off
This
the family
but
thread.
this is what I mean by vendor lock-in, and the AI companies are doing the same thing.
So tell me exactly, how are the AI tools getting me locked in?
Well, the same way everybody else does. The longer you use something, the more context. And with AI, context is everything. It's one thing for like Facebook or whatever. But think about it now. You have some people have decades of stuff in Facebook. For them to switch if somebody made a competitor to it to get all of those pictures and everything off would be impossible.
Mhm.
Well, AI is even more important to have context, right? Without context, AI doesn't work well. Well, they're building more and more context. You say yourself all the time, it knows me
Mhm.
because you've been using ChatGPT almost as long as I have.
Right.
And so it's got this long context. I've been using ChatGPT for over 4 years. And because I've been using it so long, now when I told it to export the memories, it just flat didn't do it.
Yeah, too much.
It was too big.
Right.
If I used to export because I didn't trust them, I would export
Mm.
about once every 2 months.
Mhm.
So I have all these memory files that I saved over time. They're just CSV files.
Well, one of the things I think we need to tell our audience today is a solution to this problem. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but something that I've noticed, even with
Mhm,
my chats and everything else,
mhm.
is if I don't organize my chats, even to the point of if I don't rename them so that they're easy for me to go back and find
Or
later
put it
and
in projects.
allow the AI to name the chat,
Mhm.
I might as well not even have had done it.
Yeah,
So,
because when you go to search for it, after it gets about 5, 6
right,
scrolls down, you've
right,
lost it.
right. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I think is another way that, I mean, if I wanted to take that information from the AI that maybe I worked on it a year ago and take that specific chat and maybe copy and paste it into another AI because I want to move to a different
Mhm.
platform, I can't find the chat to begin with.
Yes, I do the same thing you do. The first organizational system that ChatGPT gave us that I started using was projects.
Hmm.
They still have them. The nice thing about projects is that you don't organize it by chat, you organize it by what you're doing. So you could have 5 chats, 10 chats, whatever, all in that same folder, so to speak. That was the first way I started organizing. But from day one, I have always said that different AIs do things differently. Some do better than others.
Yeah.
So whenever I was doing like Google was the first one that could read images. So I did used Google for that. ChatGPT had a better large language model thing. Claude did better at coding, and they still do. And no matter what, they're somewhat converging, but not completely.
Right.
Their tone is different.
Hmm.
You may like the way Claude speaks versus ChatGPT. As you get more and more context, though, and you're giving that to them over a long period of time, that memory builds up, and it gets harder and harder to switch.
Yeah, the other thing that I think always got us locked in, and I can remember it, is like our iTunes account. Whenever we got ready to like get a Pandora account or
Mhm,
a Spotify account or
mhm,
something when those things became popular, Sirius XM,
mhm.
I didn't want to give up my iTunes account because I had spent a lot of money downloading songs into my iTunes account. And even now, there's no way. I mean, there's no way that I can access those
'Cause you don't own
songs.
them, you rent them.
Yeah, I mean, so they've had us locked into an ecosystem and I- follow the money. That's what I always say. I mean, they want you locked into an ecosystem so that you continue to pay
Sure,
for the access to that ecosystem.
and what's sad to me is used to, because 'cause we're old enough to remember, used to the idea of customer loyalty came from great products.
Right.
And I gotta say that in deference to my son-in-law who doesn't like Apple, Apple generally does a pretty good job of building quality products
Their user
for the
interface.
stuff I
Right.
use. I'm not saying everything Apple does is quality, like some of the apps, I can't stand them, but Apple doesn't build all the apps. But the fact is that even nowadays, it's not like that anymore. It's not like I don't try to get you because I have a great product or whatever. Now I try to get you because I build an ecosystem. I get you trapped in there and I just don't let you out.
Well, I'll
So
tell
your
you
idea of
one
customer loyalty nowadays is to put you in a room and lock the door once you step in there, even though you didn't realize the door locked behind you, and not let you out,
that
even no matter how
it
miserable.
just happened to me with a app that I had on my phone that I love to use for editing photos.
Mhm.
I've had this app since 2020,
Yeah.
probably. And I was paying $4.99 a month.
Mhm.
I was paying $5 a month to have this app.
'Cause it gave you
It
value.
gave me value.
Mhm.
They unexpectedly sent me a notification saying they were raising their monthly fee to $7 a month. It's only $3 more. I I canceled my subscription.
Well,
But now I'm going, "Oh, God, I really do like using this app." But just the thought that I had been with them since 2020 and they're raising my subscription, it's like, why not have the new subscribers
start at a higher level.
start at a higher level?
You couldn't, and I get the fact that maybe they're losing money, maybe they need raising prices is all a part of it. Vendor lock-in is all a part of it. What bothers me is generally when you pay more for something, you expect something in return, like a little better
Right.
quality or a new feature or
Not a lot. Well, they now have an AI analyzer
that's
for
I
for
mean,
their
and that's what
images.
everybody's adding. Everybody's going, "Well, we'll throw an AI in there and raise the price." That's I didn't ask you for that.
Right.
So, did you ask your customers what they wanted? Because I promise you, they did not ask their customers.
Well, they lost my subscription.
They're
Now I'm
out.
just trying to figure out, thankfully, I saved a bunch of the images to my
Yeah.
phone. But anyway, so I want to move on real quick.
No,
I did try to switch.
you did.
I did. And let
Well, and there's a story behind that too, because Amy and I were both
Okay,
staying.
Amy, first of all, for our listeners, Amy is the owner of Fried Tech, and we've known her for
I've known her for
a
15
long
years,
time.
probably 15 years.
She's a very dear friend of ours. She and her husband came to see us last weekend before, and she was talking to you about all of the
Well, her and I have been talking about
awesome
Claude for a
things.
while. We text back and forth a lot about AI stuff. We have been for years. And we were talking about Claude, and
Mm,
she was telling us because she has a small business, and she was telling us the value add that it's bringing her small business. I've been using Claude for a long time for coding. So we convinced you, you need to try this.
Yes,
And what happened?
exactly what
What are we
you
talking about?
accused me of. We realized that I was very codependent on ChatGPT. And what's funny is that when everyone kind of broke up with ChatGPT, I guess about a month ago, 2 months ago, before you guys tried to convince me to start using Claude, I did. I decided I was going to break up with it.
Mhm.
And I started using Claude. Now, I was not using Claude Cowork. I was just using Claude.
That's what we were
And
trying to convince you to use.
right. And so that's why it's kind of a little different now. So I started using Claude, not the Cowork, which is the regular chat function. And the first thing I realized is that it didn't know me. It didn't know what I wanted. It didn't know what I wanted to say. It didn't know what I wanted to sound like. It didn't get me. I'm a little bit sarcastic. I'm a little bit whatever. And I would say something. eh, I know you shouldn't do it, but when I have a conversation with my I have a conversation with it. I don't construct this beautiful prompt unless I really want something serious out of it because I understand the whole concept of garbage in, garbage out. I
Mhm.
understand that. So if I'm doing something like really serious, like I'm really wanting to research something, I will construct a really great prompt.
You expect it
Otherwise,
to know you.
Otherwise, I get on and I say, "Hey, I really was thinking about this the other day, and
You
I'd like
ex-
to know what you think about this." And my AI doesn't think.
you expect it to know this. Isn't that something about you being dependent on it?
Yeah. So I did
You
that.
depend
And
on
I
it
went to go to
knowing you.
Claude and it wasn't treating me well. And so I was like, all right, fine. I'm not going to break up with ChatGPT. So I kept catching myself going back to ChatGPT.
Mhm.
Well, when y'all convinced me to try co-work, and the reason that you wanted me to try co-work is because I'm working on a second book. I'm writing a curriculum. I'm writing an AI curriculum for K through eighth grade, and
Mhm.
I'm working on that diligently. And all of the information I've been collecting and doing, I've been keeping in my Google Drive.
Mhm.
And y'all were like, Marty, co-work can access your Google Drive
Or
and,
even
and
local
or
files.
even my local files,
Yes.
or it can also what kind of was the tipping point was when y'all told me it really did a good job accessing Canva because I do our presentations in Canva. So that's the first time I used Cowork. It was when we were getting ready to go do a presentation at HBCU,
Mhm.
Hudson Tillotson
Mhm.
University. And I took the one that we had done for something totally different for Texas A&M University, and I said, "Okay, this presentation, I kind of want it to be the same, but can you help me make the changes for this university?"
Right.
And it was able to access my Canva, make a copy of it, and then make these suggestions. And it did a really great job doing that.
And now I'm gonna convince you to get rid of Canva too.
I don't know, maybe from my cold dead hands.
I'm just not a fan of Canva, but that's beside the point.
Well,
Anyway, to continue.
I actually the curriculum I've been working on, I actually realized that the first time I was like, "Okay, I'll do part of it in ChatGPT, and then I'll copy and I'll literally paste it into Claude Cowork, or I'll take it and I'll download it from ChatGPT and I'll put it into my Google Drive, and then I'll have Cowork access that." I did that for several lessons,
Mhm.
and now, slowly but surely, Cowork is doing a better job of making suggestions on edits, and I'm not using ChatGPT as much for that
Think about how
curriculum
hard that
development.
is, though. I mean, yes, you've been using it. Think about how hard that's gonna be a year from now or 2 years from now. Right now, you've been in this for, 3 and a half, 4 years, whatever. Think about 5 or 6 years that because when we started, they didn't do it. You couldn't export
Right.
anything. They didn't do a good job with the whole idea of knowing you, the long-term memory. I mean, chat one of the headlines, they just upgraded their memory. They're doing that because they wanna make it harder to switch.
Well, I think they got a little afraid when a lot of people
They
broke
do
up
it
with them.
well, in the store, the download out of the, I don't know, Apple Store or something, Anthropic jumped to number 1, I think,
Right.
because it was a politics thing.
Yeah.
They were
All about that competition, all
so,
about that
anyway, you had a whole
competition.
list of questions, and we're gonna run out of
Yeah.
time, so
Well,
continue.
one of the things is let's talk a little bit technical.
Okay.
So, what is actually happening behind the scenes on these AIs that's getting it to where you're in their ecosystem and it's so hard to get out of the ecosystem? What is it that's actually occurring behind the scenes?
Well, there's a couple things that have changed. First of all, the context window, which is how many tokens can it handle, which tokens translates to 3/4 of a word, yada, yada, yada. What? You're laughing, you don't like tokens?
So laughing. I'm sorry. So the other night, Jim is sitting at the table on his computer, and I decided that I wanted some attention. So
Yes, you did.
I walked in there, and it's something we've been doing ever since I was probably, what, 17 years old? Is I we've been married for a long time. I'll come in and I like sit on his lap at the kitchen table,
Right in front of my
right
computer.
in front. And so you were like, Mari, I'm in the middle of a project or whatever. And so I looked at you and I said, "Damn it, Jim, I can't wait for your tokens to run out."
You did say that actually, because Claude I hit my limits on Claude fairly
I
often.
like when you hit your limits with your tokens, I finally get your attention.
It's not true, but anyway,
I could see the memes now.
there's gonna be lots of them. Anyway,
Token.
so the context windows, Claude used to be 250,000 tokens, which is, if you had 100,000 tokens, I think it's 75,000 words or something like that. But the windows are now up to like 1,000,000 words or 1,000,000
Wow.
tokens or whatever. So they're large. So that changed. The second part of it is they all have memory now. Memory being basically what I've been doing on my own locally, they're putting into their product. And that
Mhm,
means all of your chats that I get to know you thing, all of your chats become available as context.
mhm,
So now they have the ability to load a tremendous amount of context in. Whereas before, it was difficult to load in memories because you'd run out of context window. And obviously, if I'm trying to do something and you're loading up with old context and you're either getting me off track or you're making it to where I run out of context window,
mhm.
that's not desirable. But now with the large I mean, talking about like 750,000 words or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge context window. And used to, when you got that large, they started losing things. Like it would remember the beginning and the end, but not the middle of the conversation. But that's also gotten better. Put all that together, and you have a situation to where, like yours, where it tends to know your tone. I don't like the ChatGPT tone after the 5.2 release, I think it was. I keep using the word sycophantic because I don't really understand a better word for it. but it's a butt kisser and it's annoying.
Well, it's like Rachel said whenever she's communicating with it sometimes in the middle of the night because of, like, some issue she's having with
Mhm.
nursing
Yeah.
her daughter,
Yeah.
and it'll come back and say, "I know this is hard for you," and she's like, "You nursed a child. You know this is
Rachel's
hard."
like me. She doesn't like that stuff. So what to answer your question, what's going on behind the scenes is bigger context windows,
Mhm.
bigger memory files. If you use the Claude code, the local, what they call CLI, the command line version, like I do, has a file called claude.md and memory.md. These all have these, they literally
Markdown
store
files?
all these markdown files with all this in there.
Mhm.
So that's what's changed.
So I think the word of choice that has been out there for a while now is
Mhm.
a memory palace. So basically,
Well,
it's built a memory palace for you.
that is an old term, but it got recent attention because the actress that was in Fifth Element, I can't think of
Oh,
what her
okay.
name was.
All right.
Apparently, from what I read, I didn't really read much about it, but she had probably used Claude Code, created a GitHub repository that she uploaded her memory palace design, and it, because it's her and got a lot of attention, it got 20, 30,000 stars on GitHub. But the point is that the structure of a memory palace is you imagine a room like our house has a lot of rooms.
Mhm.
Imagine a room and each object has significance in your memory. And so you remember things because you associate them with something visual that you're familiar with.
Mhm.
So this idea of building, some people call it second brain, some people call it a memory palace, some people call it who knows what. I've heard this term second brain used many times.
'Kay.
But this idea is how do I structure, am I getting ahead of myself
A
in
little
terms
bit.
of,
Go ahead.
okay, well, I don't have to. We can
No,
stop.
no, go
But
ahead.
how do I structure these memories, which we've used the word context a lot with? How do I structure them in a way that I own them? Now, I've been doing this for years because of the nature of the jobs. I've done a lot of project management, so I have
Mhm.
my own style of putting things together.
Keeping information.
Well, and I don't project manage using a formal project management tool a lot because
Mhm.
I've worked for smaller companies and large, and I don't like these structured tools that they use.
Mhm.
But I've used hyperlinked files. Now I use Markdown files and I use Obsidian. But you build essentially what's called a knowledge graph out of it. But basically, you're building all of these memories, this context into file. You use the file system on your local computer to store it, which means a lot of people, you can back it up to GitHub, make it private if you do. You can get a paid subscription to Obsidian like I've done, so it'll sync across multiple machines. So it'll create the folder on multiple machines. You can back it up to a flash drive if you want to. But either way, you own it.
Okay,
So
so
they're your memories.
I've got a question for you.
Shoot.
We know, and our audience knows, that I lost my sister a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And my sister was young. She was only 46 years old.
Mhm.
And one of the problems that we ran into is that we can't access her stuff.
That's a different problem.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Because whenever I mentioned that iTunes account, whenever I mentioned my Facebook, whenever I mentioned
Stickiness thing.
and I am in this ecosystem
Mhm.
and I've got all of this data. I mean, we have an old account with all of our images in it.
Well, I mean, she had a Facebook account going back for a decade, 2
Right,
decades.
right. And so she has passed away and she didn't have a will or all this other good stuff. And we don't know these passwords and we don't know this information. These are like her digital assets.
Mhm.
And I remember you talking years ago about like a digital trust almost
What was it?
for,
Was that
for,
20 years, 25 years ago?
so
Yeah, we built a product.
what would you suggest even for me? I mean, like I do password hints. Okay.
Actually, the way you do it is
But,
good.
but guess what? I changed my password and don't remember to update my
Well, not only
hints.
that, but nobody knows your hints but you or
Are
me.
you? Yeah. And so, like, if our kids looked at this and went,
Rachel would be the only
I
Rachel
have
might
no
know.
idea,
Rachel, yeah.
don't know what mama's talking about that hint. So
Well,
what is a good way? And I don't want to talk about dying because that's so morbid, but there's so much important information that you want to be able to pass on.
okay, I understand what you're asking. We we built a digital trust years ago, where we were basically it's similar to what you see now with these. password
I
tools.
like the Google password manager.
Well, Google had password. There's other ones. I can't think of what one password. I don't know what it was. Something
Mhm.
like that. They're all single sign-on type products, meaning that you remember a password to unlock, just like the password manager does, all these other passwords. So we built around that idea. The problem is that you have to have a legal framework around it,
Mhm.
meaning that you have to have documentation that it makes it inheritable. Well, we built a project. We built the digital side of that. The problem you have with doing the you're gonna inherit all this stuff is that some of the terms of service for some of
Mhm.
these companies, they're all
Mhm.
different. And
Oh,
so what happens upon death or death certificate or all that other stuff? So you've got to be a little more careful about how you build it to make sure that you can actually will the information to someone
because their
legally.
terms of service might say, "Once you're not here, it's gone."
Nobody can use it but
Like, say,
you or
music on iTunes or something like that. Something that,
yes, you may not be able to will it to somebody. It may just go back into the ether. They may take all your music and
just
just take it away
whatever,
from
you
you.
just lose it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was complex even back then, and that was 25 years ago. So,
Wow. I wonder if there's a solution now. You tell you
there's
what the
lots of different
you tell
solutions,
you what the
but
solution
a
was?
piece of paper is the better one.
Let me tell you what the solution was with my sister.
Mhm,
She actually, before she got real bad,
mhm,
she had given her cell phone to a good friend of hers and had told her good friend what her PIN code was to get into her cell phone.
mhm.
And because of that, the friend was able to access
That's the way
most
most people
of
do
the
it. That's
stuff.
that's very ad hoc, though.
It's very ad hoc. And if the friend had not remembered what that passcode was, because she didn't write it down,
Yeah.
then
Okay, we're spending a lot of time on that
it's
particular
just, I
topic.
mean, what we're
The
talking about ecosystems and we're talking about getting locked into these ecosystems. So whenever you start really, really liking a product, or you really like the ecosystem you're in, maybe it's time for you to start reading those terms of service. Maybe it's time for you to start thinking about what happens if they do raise their prices and I can no longer afford them. How am I going to get my information back out of it? So what I'm going to suggest that you do is that you keep it in writing. You put it on a piece of paper. You do your password hints. You create files. Like I have a Google Drive that after I create things, I'm dropping into that Google Drive, and that Google Drive is me.
okay,
Right? I mean, it's not owned by an AI. It's not owned by another company.
yes.
It's just my Google
But these
login.
are still 2 separate problems. One of the problem you're focused on at this very moment is the passwords.
Well, I'm talking about just my documentation.
But the AI part of it is more subtle because it's not just the password's the front door to get in. Once you're in there, you do whatever it is that product lets you do. An AI and the memories behind it, the context that comes with it, these are questions and answers and things you've learned and things that have helped you develop a particular set of expertise or so it's a whole lot of information. If you get nothing else out of this podcast, the one thing I want you to get is don't do it again. I mean, generations, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the Gen Xs, we're the Gen Xs, but every generation has allowed these large companies because we don't want to put the effort into it ourselves. We've allowed these large companies to dictate our lives. At first, they give you lots of free stuff. It's great. It works together over time. It gets more and more expensive, and we're just locked in. And I mean, cell phone bills are
Hmm,
hundreds of dollars now. And
ridiculous.
and in the United States, they've made it really difficult to change your providers. You've spent 8 or 10 hours changing
Yeah.
providers. In Europe, you can literally go down to you can swap in 5 minutes. You can go buy a phone and take the SIM card out and stick it in another phone.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be that complicated. And if we allow this, these AI companies are going to do the same thing. How do you not do that? Use tools, the idea like Obsidian, which is a bunch of markdown files. Markdown is a file format. Use your file system, which people have done before, to be your memory and use the tool to access your memories through the file system
Not
on your
the
local
actual tool
computer
itself.
and not let the tool be your memory.
Got it.
Keep the context yourself. When I'm developing code now, I have a thing called a log file, dev log or log is what I call it, .md. Every single thing I do, I have it give me a log entry. And it doesn't just put in there what I accomplished. It puts in there the things that I didn't, the questions that I ask and why they didn't work or whatever. So I have this running list of that development cycle that I can then refer back to if I want to understand
And
the
that
product.
list is not in the AI. You actually
No,
save
it's
that log
local.
file local.
It's local. And I even upload mine typically, a lot of times I'll put mine up on GitHub
So it would
as
be
a private
possible,
repository.
like let's say that something happens and I don't know, this the CEO of one of the big major companies gets hit by a beer truck or whatever, and then the company goes away.
Mhm.
You could take that local file of all those markdowns that's like your log file of a
Mm.
project you've been working on
All my
and
projects.
possibly upload it into a different AI,
I do it all the
and
time.
it wouldn't take that long for it to catch up with where you're at and what you're trying to do.
Let me give you an example because we're going to run out of time of exactly what I do.
Okay.
Since I'm using the command line, I'm in a project, and a project can be anything. It can be, add doing something to your house. It can be writing code. It doesn't have to be a coding project, but in my case, coding project.
Well, like the
So,
curriculum that I'm working
so
on.
I've got this log file and I've got all these project files in this folder. I open command line for Claude. I tell it it's got its own Claude.mp file, which is its memory file, which basically is how I want it to act in that thing. And then I tell it, read the log files, read the plan and read the log files and get yourself caught up.
Huh?
I close out Claude. I open up OpenAI, same exact thing. I say it's got its own memory file, which is easy to create. Which basically is, again, it tells it a little bit about the project. But then I say,
Read it.
read that file and read my log file and get yourself caught up.
So
I
basically,
do
you're
the
using
exact
both
same
at the
thing with
same time.
Gemini
Okay. So you're using all 3 of them.
if I want to. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I use a couple of different variations on because I know one does something better than the other.
Right. Well, that's a complaint that I had with you when y'all were trying to talk me into going over to Claude.
Yes.
And even now, uh, Claude doesn't do images. And,
Won't generate
it
images.
won't
That's
really,
correct.
it won't generate, and I'm hoping it does eventually, but right now,
I don't think they're going to
uh,
because they don't have the
uh,
computing capacity.
so I always go back to ChatGPT.
But you should be able to. That's the
Right.
whole point.
And that's what I do is I like tell Claude, hey, I need a prompt for an image that you
Yeah.
think, and then I take that prompt and put it in Midjourney or whatever. But yeah, so
So
basically you're saying spread the love.
because I have a local file system,
Mari,
I
don't be codependent. You need to spread the love.
well, what you need to do is keep your memories and the things you're working on local. You need to not let somebody own everything about you and how you do things.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. I appreciate the conversation. You've had let's see, how many, what time is it?
31.
Okay, you've had my undivided attention for 31 minutes.
Hmm,
I'm going to go back and use my tokens now because I'm working on the project.
Okay, well, let me know when you're out of tokens so I can
I'll
play
let you
with it.
know when I'm out of tokens.
Okay.
My name is Mari. I'm here with my husband, Jim. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope y'all have a marvelous rest of the week.